I'm Emily Carter, 32, from Boston. Last year, my world collapsed with a single text from my mom: "We changed the locks. You don't have a home anymore." Those words hit like a punch to the gut, unraveling everything I thought I knew about family. Growing up, our suburban life seemed so normal: family dinners, Cape Cod summers, my grandmother's Victorian house as our anchor. But that house, my inheritance, became a battleground. My parents, Susan and Michael, didn't just want it, they wanted to erase me from it. Standing on that porch, locked out of the place where I'd laughed, cried, and grown up, I felt my heart break. How could the people who raised me do this? This isn't just a story of loss, it's about what happens when trust shatters. If you've ever been betrayed by those you love, you'll understand what came next. This is the story of how my own parents tried to steal my grandmother's house, my inheritance, and how I fought to take it back. It's a story of betrayal, but also of finding strength I didn't know I had. My grandmother Clara left me her Cambridge home, a place filled with our family's memories, because she trusted me to honor its soul. My parents saw it differently: $1 million paycheck to fund their dreams. They changed the locks, threw my life into trash bags, and spread lies to turn our community against me. But I wasn't going to let them win. With a lawyer by my side and a fire in my chest, I fought back, uncovering secrets that exposed their greed. This journey wasn't just about a house, it was about reclaiming my voice, my truth, and my place in a family that tried to cast me out. Before we dive in, I got a cryptic voicemail during this mess: someone who changed everything. Stick around to find out who. It came late one night, when I was sleeping on my friend's couch, feeling like I'd lost everything. The voice was unfamiliar, urgent: "Emily, there are things you need to know about your parents." My stomach churned. Was this a trick? Another move in my parents' game to break me? Or could it be the key to turning the tables? I won't spoil it yet, but that call led me to evidence that shifted the entire fight. It's the kind of twist you don't see coming in a family drama, the kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew. If you've ever stumbled on a truth that changed your perspective, you'll want to hear how this unfolded. The truth was my weapon. If you've ever faced family drama or fought for what's yours, hit subscribe, share your story in the comments. Let's get into it. I know what it's like to feel alone, betrayed by the people who should protect you. Maybe you've had to stand up to a parent, a sibling, or someone you trusted, fighting for what's rightfully yours. This story is for you, those who felt the sting of disloyalty but kept going. In the comments, tell me, what's the hardest family battle you faced? How did you find the strength to push through? Your stories keep this community alive, and I read every one. As we dive into this tale of revenge, not the petty kind, but the kind where justice and truth prevail, know that it's not just about winning. It's about discovering who you are when the world turns against you. Let's start this journey together. Growing up in Boston, my family seemed normal, the kind you'd see in any suburban neighborhood. My parents, Susan and Michael, worked hard to give us a good life. Mom was a third-grade teacher, her classroom filled with colorful posters and kids' laughter. Dad ran a local bank branch, always in a suit, always serious. My younger brother Ethan and I bickered over silly things: who got the front seat, who ate the last cookie, but we had each other's backs. We lived in a modest house with a patchy lawn, where Mom's rose bushes were her pride and joy. Family dinners were loud, messy, full of stories about our day. Every summer, we'd pile into the car for Cape Cod, building sandcastles and eating lobster rolls. It wasn't perfect, but it felt solid, like nothing could break us. Looking back, I wonder how I missed the signs that we were anything but unbreakable. But the heart of our family was my grandmother Clara's house in Cambridge. That Victorian beauty, with its wraparound porch and stained glass windows, wasn't just a house, it was our sanctuary. Every Thanksgiving, we'd cram around her oak table, passing turkey and cranberry sauce under chandeliers that flickered with history. Every Christmas, the living room glowed with lights and tinsel, Clara's laughter filling the air. It was where I ran when Mom's perfectionism got too heavy, where I felt safe, understood. Clara's house held our family's soul, generations of stories etched into its creaky floors and carved banisters. I'd sit on the porch swing, listening to her tales of my great-grandparents, who danced in that parlor during wartime. That house wasn't just walls and windows, it was a time capsule of love, loss, and resilience. I thought it would always hold us together, no matter what came our way. Clara taught me to sketch on that porch, her hands guiding mine as we drew the world around us. "Emily," she'd say, her voice warm but firm, "this house isn't just walls, it's our family's story." Those moments shaped me, planting a seed of creativity I didn't fully understand then. We'd sit for hours, sketching the oak trees, the neighbor's cat, or the way sunlight hit the porch railing. Clara saw art in everything, and she saw it in me. She'd tell me stories of her youth, of sneaking out to jazz clubs in the 50s, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Those afternoons were my escape from Mom's endless critiques or Dad's silent expectations. Clara believed in me, not just as her granddaughter, but as someone who could carry the weight of our family's legacy. I didn't know then how much her words would come to mean. We had family dinners at Clara's, the kind where everyone talked over each other, plates clattering, laughter echoing. Cape Cod vacations were our summer ritual, salty air, sunburns, and ice cream dripping down our hands. I thought we were unbreakable, a family stitched together by these moments. But looking back, I see the cracks. Mom's need for control was always there. She'd rearrange Clara's kitchen or snap if I didn't follow her rules. Dad's quiet resentment simmered, especially when Clara praised my ideas over his. Ethan tried to keep the peace, but even he couldn't bridge the growing distance. I ignored the tension, convinced love would hold us together. We were a family, after all, flawed but forever. Or so I thought. Clara's house was our glue, but I didn't see how it could become the wedge that drove us apart. I was naive, believing love could conquer everything. I never imagined this house would tear us apart. Clara's words about its story? They'd soon mean more than I could have dreamed. That Victorian home wasn't just a place, it was a promise, a legacy Clara trusted me to protect. Growing up, I thought our family was like any other, with quirks and squabbles but a core of loyalty. How wrong I was. The house held memories of joy, Clara teaching me to bake her famous apple pie, Ethan and I playing hide-and-seek in the attic, but it also hid tensions I didn't see. Mom's obsession with appearances, her need to control every detail, wasn't just annoying, it was a warning. Dad's silence wasn't calm, it was a storm brewing. When Clara left me the house, I thought it was her way of saying she believed in me. I didn't realize it would spark a war. My parents saw dollar signs, not history. They wanted to sell it, turn our legacy into condos for profit. I wanted to honor Clara, to keep the house alive with art and memory. That difference set us on a collision course. When I got that text from Mom, we changed the locks. It wasn't just a house they tried to take. It was my identity, my connection to Clara, my sense of home. This story isn't just about revenge, it's about standing up when the people you love most betray you. It's about finding strength in the ruins of what you thought was family. Clara's house taught me that home isn't just a place, it's the courage to fight for what matters. As I stood on that locked-out porch, heart pounding, I didn't know how I'd survive. But I knew I wouldn't let them win. If you've ever had to fight for something you love, you know that moment when surrender feels easier, but giving up isn't an option. Clara's words echoed in my mind, this house is our family's story. I was going to protect that story, no matter the cost. What happened next? Well, it's a tale of betrayal, truth, and a comeback no one saw coming. Stick with me, because this is where the fight began. When Clara passed at 90, we were devastated. She was the glue of our family, her Cambridge house the backdrop to every cherished memory. Her death left a void, her laughter, her stories, her warmth, all gone. We gathered at her Victorian home for the funeral, the air heavy with grief. A month later, her will reading changed everything. We sat in a sterile lawyer's office, expecting a simple division of her modest estate. My parents, Susan and Michael, assumed the house would be sold, the profits split between them and their kids. Ethan and I just hoped for a keepsake, maybe her recipe book or a piece of her jewelry. But Clara had other plans. Her decision wasn't just about a house, it was about trust, legacy, and a choice that would unravel the family I thought I knew. That day, I saw my parents' true colors, and nothing would ever be the same. To everyone's shock, especially my parents, Clara left her house to me. Her letter, read by the lawyer in his calm, measured voice, hit like a thunderbolt. Emily, you see this house's soul. Preserve its story. I felt her love in those words, her belief that I'd carry her legacy forward. The room went silent. My mom's hands clenched the armrests, my dad's jaw tightened. They'd never expected this. Clara's house, that Victorian beauty worth over $1 million, was mine alone. I was overwhelmed, honored, but also uneasy. I'd spent my childhood in that house, sketching with Clara, dreaming in its attic. She saw me as its guardian, not just her granddaughter. But the weight of her choice pressed down on me. I could feel the tension radiating from my parents. They didn't congratulate me. They didn't speak. In that silence, I sensed the storm that was coming. My mom's face went white, then red. "This is a mistake," she said, her voice shaking with barely contained fury. She leaned forward, as if her words could rewrite the will. Dad just stared at the floor, his hands gripping his knees, knuckles pale. They'd expected the house to be sold, profits split neatly between them, Ethan and me. They'd talked about it for years, how the money would fund their retirement, maybe a condo in Florida. Clara's decision blindsided them. Mom insisted Clara wasn't thinking clearly, that her age clouded her judgment. But the lawyer was firm, the will was airtight, witnessed, notarized. Clara was sharp until her final days. I sat there, heart pounding, caught between gratitude and dread. My parents' shock wasn't just disappointment, it was anger, raw and pointed. They didn't look at me, but I felt their resentment like a physical weight. Ethan tried to break the tension, mumbling about fairness, but it didn't help. That day, I realized the house wasn't just a gift. It was a spark that would ignite a family war. I tried to make peace. The day after the will reading, I invited my parents for coffee at a quiet cafe near Clara's house. "Nothing has to change," I told them, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. "We'll still have family gatherings, holidays, everything." I wanted them to see I wasn't shutting them out. But Mom's criticism grew sharper with every visit to the house. "That paint's too modern," she'd snap, running her fingers over the fresh walls. "Clara would hate it." Dad nodded along, his silence louder than her words. I'd spent weeks carefully renovating, new plumbing, updated wiring, while preserving the house's soul. Their disapproval stung, but I thought it was just grief. I invited them over for Sunday dinners, hoping time would soften their edges. Ethan played peacemaker, saying they just needed space. But Mom's comments cut deeper each time. "Those curtains don't fit the house's history." I kept smiling, kept trying, but deep down, I felt the ground shifting beneath us. Their love felt conditional, and I didn't know why. My friend Sarah warned me one evening over wine, "Your parents are after that house, Em. It's worth over $1 million in today's market." I laughed it off, shaking my head. "They're my parents," I said. "They'll come around." I couldn't believe they'd turn against me. Susan and Michael had raised me, cheered at my school plays, bandaged my scraped knees. Sure, Mom was controlling, and Dad could be distant, but they loved me. Didn't they? Sarah's eyes were serious. "People change when money's involved," she said. "That house is a goldmine, and they expected a cut." I brushed it off, but her words lingered. I thought about Mom's insistence on selling, her cold stares when I talked about preserving Clara's legacy. Dad's silence felt heavier, like he was calculating something. I told myself it was just their way of grieving Clara. They'd supported me my whole life, surely they wouldn't betray me over a house. But Sarah's warning planted a seed of doubt, one I couldn't shake. I wanted to believe in my family, but I was starting to see the cracks. But then I heard Mom whisper to Dad after a tense family dinner, "We'll fix this." Her voice was low, sharp, like a blade slicing through the air. We'd just argued about my plan to turn the parlor into an art gallery for local artists, a way to honor Clara's love for creativity while keeping the house alive. They called it reckless, said it would ruin the neighborhood. I stood my ground, explaining the permits, the limited hours, but their faces hardened. As they left, I caught Mom's words, meant to be secret. "We'll fix this." My heart sank. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just frustration, that they'd come to accept my vision. But that moment planted a seed of doubt that grew with every cold glance, every pointed critique. I replayed Clara's letter in my mind, preserve its story. She trusted me, not them. Why were they so desperate to control it? I didn't know then that they'd been plotting for months, talking to developers behind my back, dreaming of tearing down Clara's house for condos. That whisper wasn't just anger, it was a plan. I went to bed that night uneasy, still believing love could mend us. But deep down, I felt the truth, my parents weren't just upset. They were ready to betray me to get what they wanted. If you've ever heard words that made you question your family, you know that feeling, the moment trust starts to crumble. I wasn't ready for what came next, but Clara's faith in me was about to become my strength. 2 weeks before the nightmare, I announced my plan to turn the house's parlor into an art gallery for local artists. It was my way of honoring Clara, breathing new life into her Victorian home while keeping its soul intact. I pictured curated exhibitions, soft lighting, and paintings that told stories of home and memory. But at a family dinner, my parents' faces darkened. Mom called it ruining the neighborhood, her voice dripping with disdain. "You'll bring strangers and traffic to a historic street," she snapped. Dad was quieter, but his words cut deeper. "It's your house, your mistake." I tried to explain, the gallery would be small, by appointment only, with permits to protect the house's legacy. Ethan nodded, trying to play peacemaker, but the air was thick with tension. I thought they'd come around, that they'd see my vision as a tribute to Clara, not a betrayal. I was wrong. That dinner was the last time we'd sit together as a family. Their rejection wasn't just about the gallery, it was the first step towards something far crueler. After a work trip to Chicago, I came home exhausted but happy. I'd nailed a presentation, secured a major client, and was riding a rare high. All I wanted was to collapse into my own bed in Clara's house, my sanctuary. Dragging my suitcase up the front steps, I fumbled with my key in the dark. It didn't work. I jiggled it, thinking the old lock was stuck, those ancient doors could be finicky. But then I saw it, a shiny new deadbolt, glinting under the porch light. My stomach dropped. I tried again, harder, as if sheer will could make the key fit. Nothing. My hands started to shake. Had someone broken in? Was this a mistake? I called Mom, then Dad, no answer. My heart pounded louder with each unanswered ring. I stood there, alone on the porch where I'd sketched with Clara, feeling the weight of something I couldn't yet name. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. My parents had done this. The house I'd poured my heart into, the house Clara entrusted to me, was locked against me. I felt like a stranger in my own life, staring at a door that no longer welcomed me. How could they do this? How could the people who raised me shut me out of my own home? I wasn't ready for the answer, but it was coming, and it would break my heart. My phone buzzed, shattering the silence. Mom's text glowed on the screen. We changed the locks. You don't have a home anymore. This house is ours. Each word was a knife, slicing through the trust I'd clung to. My parents, Susan and Michael, the ones who taught me to ride a bike, who'd cheered at my graduation, had declared war. I stared at the message, my breath shallow, my mind racing. How could they think the house was theirs? Clara's will was clear, notarized, legal. I typed back, fingers trembling, how brave you think you are. I wanted to sound strong, defiant, like I wasn't breaking. But inside, I was crumbling, pieces of me scattering across that porch. This wasn't just about a house, it was about family, loyalty, love. Or so I'd thought. Their words tore that illusion apart. They didn't just lock me out, they erased me, as if I was an obstacle to their plans. I kept rereading the text, hoping it was a cruel joke, but the deadbolt stared back, cold and real. My home, my memories, my connection to Clara, stolen in a single night. If you've ever felt your world collapse with one betrayal, you know that pain. It's not just hurt, it's the moment you realize the people you love most can become strangers. I stood there, frozen, not knowing what to do next, but knowing I couldn't let this be the end. Then I saw trash bags by the bushes, half hidden in the shadows. My heart sank deeper. I knelt down, unzipping one, and found my clothes, shirts I'd worn to work, jeans I'd danced in at Clara's, stuffed in like garbage. The next bag held photos, books, my life's fragments, carelessly tossed out. The third was worse, random mementos, but Clara's jewelry box, her will copy, her journal about the house's history, gone. Those weren't oversights. My parents had kept the most precious pieces, the ones tying me to Clara's legacy. I sat back on my heels, the cold ground seeping through my jeans, feeling like they'd ripped out a piece of my soul. This wasn't just a lockout, it was a calculated erasure. They wanted to break me, to make me feel like I didn't belong in the house Clara gave me. I pictured Mom sorting through my things, deciding what to keep, what to discard, as if my life meant nothing. Dad's silence must have been his agreement. The betrayal burned, a fire in my chest I didn't know I could feel. If you've ever had someone take what's yours, not just things, but your sense of home, you know that rage, that helplessness. I wanted to scream, to break the door down, but I knew that wouldn't bring Clara's treasures back. I had to be smarter. I had to fight. But in that moment, I just sat there, surrounded by my life in trash bags, wondering how my family could do this to me. A neighbor watched from her window, her silhouette sharp against the curtains, whispering to another figure beside her. Their eyes followed me as I knelt by the trash bags, my life spilled out on the lawn. I felt like a criminal on my own porch, an intruder in the place I'd called home. Clara's house, where I'd baked cookies, laughed with Ethan, felt safe, now felt hostile, like the neighborhood itself had turned against me. I imagined their whispers, "What's she doing? Why is she out there?" Mom must have spread her story already, painting me as the selfish daughter destroying Clara's legacy. The weight of their judgment pressed down, making my skin prickle. I wanted to bang on their door, explain that this was my house, that I was the one betrayed. But I stayed still, clutching a photo I'd pulled from the bag, a faded shot of Clara smiling. Their stares made me feel small, exposed, like I didn't belong. If you've ever been judged for something you didn't do, you know that sting. It's not just shame, it's isolation. I was alone, locked out, surrounded by neighbors who believed my parents' lies. But even in that moment, a spark of defiance flickered. This was my home, Clara's gift to me. I wouldn't let their whispers, or my parents' betrayal, take that away. I didn't know how I'd fight back, but I knew I would. That porch, those bags, that locked door, they weren't the end of my story. I called Sarah, my voice shaking as I tried to hold it together. They threw my life out like garbage, I said, staring at the trash bags, Clara's absence aching in every word. I told her about the text, the deadbolt, the missing heirlooms. They locked me out, Sarah. My own parents. I was trying not to sob, but the tears came anyway, hot and unstoppable. Sarah didn't hesitate. I'm coming to get you, she said, her voice steady, a lifeline in the dark. You're staying with me. 20 minutes later, she pulled up, her car a beacon in the night. She didn't ask questions, just helped me load the bags, her presence a reminder that I wasn't alone. They can't do this, she said, her anger matching mine. This is your house, Em. Her words lit something in me, a resolve to fight, not just for the house, but for myself. If you've ever had a friend show up when your world's falling apart, you know that strength they give you. Sarah was my rock, and I was ready to take my home back. I couldn't let my parents take Clara's house, my home, my legacy. The betrayal burned, but it also lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to crumble. I hired Rachel Kim, a lawyer known for tackling tough cases with a calm, unyielding strength. I met her in her downtown office, surrounded by books and warm light, and poured out my story, the locks, the text, the trash bags. Rachel's eyes narrowed as she listened. This is illegal, she said, her voice steady. It's self-help eviction, and it's against the law. Those words gave me hope, a lifeline when I felt like I was drowning. She explained our plan, file for an emergency injunction to restore my access to the house. We'd prove Clara's will was airtight, that the deed was in my name. I signed papers, my hands still shaking from the weight of suing my own parents. It felt surreal, like I was betraying them, but they'd betrayed me first. Rachel was meticulous, pulling records from the county, gathering evidence of my ownership. You're not just fighting for a house, she told me. You're fighting for your truth. If you've ever had to stand up to someone you love, you know how heavy that choice is. It's not just about winning, it's about refusing to let their actions define you. I was scared, but Clara's voice echoed in my mind, preserve its story. I owed her that. I owed myself that. So, we filed the injunction, ready to face my parents in court. I didn't know if I'd win, but I knew I couldn't back down. This was my home, and I was ready to fight for it, no matter how much it hurt. But my parents didn't stop. While I was crashing on Sarah's couch, trying to hold my life together, they launched a new attack. Mom posted on Facebook, heartbroken my daughter's ruining Clara's home. The words stung like a slap. She painted me as a selfish traitor, turning our family's legacy into a commercial circus with my art gallery plan. Family friends, neighbors, even distant cousins chimed in, their comments piling up. How could you, Emily? Clara would be ashamed. Each one felt like a betrayal, their trust in Mom's lies cutting deeper than the locks on my door. Then they escalated. My parents filed a police report, accusing me of stealing Clara's jewelry, the very jewelry they'd kept when they threw my things out. I got a call from an officer while standing outside the courthouse, his voice cold, "We need you to answer questions about stolen heirlooms." My heart raced. They were trying to ruin me, to make me look like a criminal in our community. If you've ever been smeared by someone you trusted, you know that pain. It's not just lies, it's the theft of your reputation. I told the officer it was a misunderstanding, that I'd address it through my lawyer. Rachel was furious. They're desperate, she said. This is intimidation. But it was more than that. It was a calculated move to break my spirit, to make me give up the house. Mom's post and that police report weren't just attacks, they were a campaign to erase my claim to Clara's legacy. I felt the weight of their lies, but I also felt something else, resolve. They could try to destroy me, but I wasn't going to let their story become mine. In court, Rachel was a force. She stood tall, presenting Clara's will, the deed, every document proving I was the rightful owner. My parents sat across the room, Mom's face tight, Dad's eyes fixed on the table. Their lawyer, a slick man with a sharp suit, argued I'd abandoned the house, that they were protecting it. Rachel dismantled his claims, her voice calm but cutting. She showed proof of the illegal lockout, the text from Mom, my belongings in trash bags. The judge, an older woman with a no-nonsense gaze, listened intently. When she spoke, her words were clear: Ms. Carter owns this property. The lockout was illegal. My heart leapt, but it wasn't joy, it was relief, tinged with sorrow. I'd won access back, but I was suing my parents. The family I'd known was unraveling before my eyes. Ethan sat behind them, looking torn, like he wanted to say something but couldn't. If you've ever had to fight for what's yours in a courtroom, you know it's not a victory you celebrate. It's a necessity, a wound that scars even as it heals. The judge ordered my parents to return my belongings and restore my access immediately. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was the weight of what came next. Walking out of that courtroom, I saw Mom wipe a tear, Dad's face red with anger. They didn't look at me. I'd won the battle, but the war wasn't over. Rachel squeezed my arm. You did the right thing. I nodded, but inside, I was bracing for what they'd do next. They weren't done fighting, and neither was I. But walking into my house? It was gutted. I stepped through the door, expecting to feel home again, but it was like entering a stranger's space. Clara's antique desk, where I'd worked and dreamed, stood empty, its drawers yanked out. Family photos that lined the walls, gone, leaving faded outlines like ghosts. Even the vintage copper pots in the kitchen, the ones Clara used to make her famous stew, were missing. My parents hadn't just locked me out, they'd stripped the house of its heart. I walked from room to room, the creak of the floorboards echoing in the silence. My throat tightened, tears threatening to spill. This was my home, Clara's gift, but it felt hollow, violated. I sat on the bare floor in the parlor, where I'd planned the gallery, and felt the weight of their betrayal all over again. If you've ever returned to a place you loved, only to find it torn apart, you know that ache. It's not just loss, it's desecration. I wanted to scream, to demand why they'd done this, but I knew the answer: greed. They wanted the house's value, not its memories. Rachel took photos, documenting every missing item. This is contempt of court, she said, her voice steady. But no court order could bring back Clara's journal or the feeling of safety I'd lost. I felt hollow, like the house itself, still standing, but empty of the life it once held. Yet, even in that emptiness, a spark grew. They could take my things, but they couldn't take my resolve. Clara trusted me to protect this house, and I wasn't going to let her down. Then Rachel found something that changed everything, an email from Dad to developers, dated before Clara died. It wasn't just a reaction to the will, it was proof they'd planned to sell the house for condos all along. The email laid it out, a deal for $2 million to tear down Clara's Victorian and build luxury units. They'd been scheming while Clara was still alive, pressuring her to sell, dismissing her love for the house as sentimentality. I sat in Rachel's office, reading the email, my hands trembling. They were planning this before she was gone, I whispered, the betrayal cutting deeper than the locks or the trash bags. This wasn't just about me, it was about Clara, too. They'd betrayed her, the woman who'd raised Mom, who'd loved us all. If you've ever discovered a truth that flips your world upside down, you know that mix of rage and clarity. I was furious, but I also saw them for who they were, people willing to sacrifice family for money. Rachel's voice was calm but fierce. This is premeditation. It strengthens our case. The email showed they weren't protecting Clara's legacy, they were plotting to erase it for profit. I thought of Clara's letter, preserve its story. They'd tried to rob her of that, too. That email became my weapon, proof their actions weren't just impulsive but calculated. It hurt to see their greed in black and white, but it also fueled me. I wasn't just fighting for my home, I was fighting for Clara's trust, for the truth they tried to bury. My parents thought they could break me, make me give up. But this discovery lit a fire I didn't know I had. If you've ever found evidence that proves you were right all along, you know that feeling. It's not just vindication, it's power. I was ready to take them on, not with anger, but with the truth. The house wasn't theirs to sell, and I wasn't theirs to erase. One night, as I lay awake on Sarah's couch, my phone rang, cutting through the silence. It was my great-aunt Lillian from Western Massachusetts, her voice soft but urgent. "Clara left things with me," she said. "Things your parents shouldn't see." My heart skipped a beat. Lillian was Clara's younger sister, a quiet woman who lived in a small cottage, far from our family drama. I hadn't spoken to her since the funeral, but her words stirred something, hope, maybe, or fear. What could Clara have hidden? Why now? Lillian wouldn't say more, only that I needed to come to her home, alone. "It's about the house, Emily," she added. "And it's about you." If you've ever gotten a call that feels like a turning point, you know that mix of dread and anticipation. I was exhausted, worn down by my parents' lies and the gutted house, but Lillian's voice was a lifeline. I drove to her cottage the next day, not knowing what I'd find, but feeling Clara's presence guiding me. At her cottage, nestled among wildflowers and ancient oaks, Lillian handed me an envelope, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was Clara's letter, written in her elegant script, explaining why she chose me. "Emily, you see the house's soul, its stories. Protect it." My eyes stung with tears. She'd known I'd fight for it, even when I doubted myself. The envelope also held printed emails, my parents to developers, plotting to sell the house for condos, dated before Clara's death. They'd pressured her, called her stubborn for refusing to sell. Then came the USB drive. Lillian's eyes met mine, heavy with sorrow. "Clara recorded this a year ago," she said. "She was afraid of them." I clutched the drive, my heart pounding. This wasn't just evidence, it was Clara's voice, reaching from beyond to protect me. If you've ever held proof that someone believed in you, you know that weight. It's not just paper or data, it's trust, a legacy passed down. Those documents showed my parents' greed, their betrayal not just of me, but of Clara. They'd schemed while she was alive, dismissing her love for the house as old-fashioned nonsense. I felt rage, but also clarity. Clara had seen their true colors, and she'd chosen me to stand against them. Lillian's cottage felt like a sanctuary, a place where truth could breathe. I thanked her, my voice breaking, knowing these items were my way to take back what was mine. Clara's voice played from the USB, clear and steady, though frail. "I trust Emily to protect my home. My daughter and son-in-law threatened me, saying they'd sell it when I'm gone." Each word was a dagger, confirming their betrayal. They'd stood in Clara's kitchen, demanding she sign papers, while she held firm, knowing I'd carry her wishes. I sat in Lillian's living room, tears streaming, hearing Clara's strength one last time. Then Lillian showed me a petition, pages filled with signatures from local artists, supporting my gallery plan. "They heard about your fight," she said. "They want Clara's house to live on." I wasn't alone. If you've ever felt the world against you, then found unexpected allies, you know that shift. It's not just support, it's a reminder you're worth fighting for. Those artists, strangers to me, saw value in Clara's legacy, in my vision. Their names, dozens of them, gave me strength my parents tried to strip away. The petition wasn't just paper, it was a community saying, "We believe in you." Clara's recording and the petition were more than evidence, they were her final gift, a shield against my parents' lies. I felt her with me, urging me to keep going. My parents thought they could erase me, but Clara had planned for this, and now I had what I needed to fight back. That moment in Lillian's cottage wasn't just a turning point, it was the moment I knew I could win, not just for me, but for everyone who loved that house. Rachel used this evidence like a surgeon's blade. She presented Clara's letter, the emails, and the recording to my parents' lawyer, each piece building an unshakable case. Their lawyer's response came fast, an email that read, "We have a problem." My parents wanted to settle. They knew they'd lose if we went back to court. The evidence was too damning: premeditated betrayal, threats to Clara, a plan to profit from her home. They offered to return the stolen items, pay damages, even issue a public apology. I sat with Rachel, stunned. If you've ever seen someone who hurt you forced to face their wrongs, you know it's not joy, it's a quiet, heavy vindication. I accepted the settlement, not for their apology, but to protect Clara's house. They'd tried to break me, but Clara's trust, Lillian's courage, and Rachel's skill turned their plan against them. This wasn't revenge in the petty sense, it was justice, the kind that restores what was stolen. I was ready to rebuild, not just the house, but my life, with Clara's story as my foundation. I opened the gallery last spring, and it felt like breathing life back into Clara's house. Local artists filled the parlor with paintings, sculptures, and stories of home and memory, each piece echoing the soul of the place I'd fought so hard to protect. The opening night was magical: soft lights, murmured conversations, and the creak of the old floors under new footsteps. I stood in the doorway, watching strangers admire the art, and felt Clara's presence, her smile in every brushstroke. She would have loved it, seeing her home alive with creativity, not torn down for condos. The neighborhood did, too. People who'd once whispered about me now stopped by, sharing stories of Clara's kindness, her garden, her laughter. They thanked me for keeping the house's history intact, for giving it a purpose. If you've ever poured your heart into something and seen it bloom, you know that feeling. It's not just pride, it's healing. The gallery wasn't just a victory over my parents' betrayal, it was a promise kept to Clara. I'd preserved her story, turned pain into beauty. That parlor, once gutted, now held hope, a testament to what we can build from ruins. The artists became my community, their work a reminder that home isn't just a place, it's the stories we tell, the people we lift up. Clara's house was no longer just mine, it belonged to everyone who saw its worth. This wasn't the end of my fight, but the start of something new, a space where memory and art could coexist, where I could stand tall, knowing I'd honored the woman who believed in me. Ethan and I are rebuilding, one coffee at a time. It's slow, fragile, but real. For months, he was caught in the middle, torn between loyalty to our parents and the truth he couldn't ignore. Then, one quiet afternoon, he showed up at the gallery with a gift, a faded photo of Clara, smiling on the porch, her eyes bright with mischief. "It belongs here," he said, his voice soft but certain. I hugged him, the first real connection we'd had since the fight began. That photo now hangs in the parlor, a reminder of what we're trying to hold on to. If you've ever tried to mend a broken family tie, you know it's not about grand gestures, it's the small moments, the choice to show up. Ethan's not fully on my side yet, but he's trying, and that's enough for now. We talk over coffee, laugh about old memories, and sidestep the pain of our parents' actions. It's a start, a bridge we're building, step by careful step, toward a new kind of family, one rooted in truth, not control. My parents? We're distant, but I'm free of their control. They sent a stiff apology after the settlement, more for appearances than remorse. I don't expect reconciliation, their betrayal cut too deep. Susan and Michael showed me who they are, people who chose money over family, who tried to erase me to get it. That truth hurt, but it also set me free. I lost the family I knew, the one I thought would always be there, but I found one I chose, Sarah, who gave me a home, Lillian, who guarded Clara's truth, the artists who filled my gallery with hope. If you've ever had to walk away from people you love, you know it's not easy, but its survival. Maya Angelou said it best: "You may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them." I chose not to let their actions define me. Instead, I built something stronger, a life where I'm not their daughter first, but Emily, the woman who fought for her home, her truth, her legacy. Clara's house stands as proof of that choice. It's not just walls, it's my defiance, my freedom. If you've ever had to redefine family, you know it's painful but powerful. You lose what was, but you gain what's yours, a circle of people who see you, not what they want you to be. I'm still healing, but I'm whole, standing in a home that's mine, surrounded by a family I built. This house taught me my strength. Clara's gift wasn't just a house, it was a lesson in resilience, in standing up when the world tries to knock you down. My parents' betrayal, the locked door, the trash bags, they were meant to break me, but they forged me instead. If you've fought for what's yours, you know that strength doesn't come from anger, but from love, for a person, a place, a truth. What's your story? Have you faced betrayal and found a way through? Maybe it was family, a friend, or even yourself you had to fight for. Share below. I read every comment, and your stories keep this journey alive. Hit like if this moved you, subscribe to join our community of fighters, dreamers, and storytellers. Thank you for being part of my journey, for listening to a story that's not just about revenge, but about reclaiming what's mine. Clara's house is my home, my gallery, my proof that we can rise from our deepest wounds. Let's keep telling our stories, together, because they're what make us unstoppable.